Next session is starting now. It's VM job queues in CloudStack, and we have Suresh Anaparti, who is part of ShapeBlue's team, who will be our speaker today. Hi, Suresh. Very nice to have you as part of the conference.
Yeah, hi, Yvette, and hello, everyone, and welcome to my today's talk on VM job queues in CloudStack. Before the intro, let me thank all the sponsors here for this event. And myself, Suresh, so I have over 15 years of experience in various technologies and products, and I'm a CloudStack contributor since 2015 and committed at Apache CloudStack, currently associated with ShapeBlue. Now going to today's agenda on my talk, so I will give a little intro on what the VM jobs is all about, and the implementation details and how to debug. Basically, it will help you if any VM jobs are stuck in your environment, then you can check using the instructions there, and what the future work that can be done in this area, and a demo of how the VM queues implemented in CloudStack. So that's also, let me go to introduction. So as you all know, VM is the primary entity for creating the instances in CloudStack, and so it has various states and has a state machine. So so there are particular restrictions when transitioning from one state to another. It is based on several operations which are done on that particular virtual machine. So in order to serialize the VM operations and to control the state transitions through the state machine, so the VM operations are being serialized, and all the VM jobs will go into the VM sync queues, from where all the VM jobs get executed. So for a VM, the main table in the database is VM instance, where you can see the VM details, and for the VM queues, the main tables are sync queue and sync queue items. So sync queue is maintains each a single record for each virtual machine, which has a queue ID and how many jobs executed, and so on. So which I will go a little bit later. And sync queue item is where we maintain all the jobs that are queued for that particular virtual machine. So a bit about VM job framework implementation. So basically, so when any virtual machine job has been triggered from API or the UI, first it hits a async job, and if it's a async job, you see a job UID with using which you can query the job status continuously, which the UI does internally, and for if that is a VM job, then a child job is created for that VM job, and that will be passed to sync queue manager, which unqueues that particular job, and async job manager continuously dequeues the sync queue and executes all the jobs which has to be executed based on the queue limits. So here you can see in the sync queue, there are 4 virtual machines, and each has a synchronizing object ID, which is nothing but a virtual machine ID, and the proc number is the number of operations executed on the particular virtual machine, and the queue limit, which is usually 1, so that only a single job gets executed in that particular VM. and whenever any job executes in the VM, the queue size gets incremented to 1, and when any jobs, further jobs get queued in sync queue item table, that will be waiting until the queue size in the sync queue gets 0. So so CloudStack ensures when the job in the sync queue item completes its execution, it purges that, and it makes the queue size to 0. Thereby, it allows execution of the next job in the queue item table based on the order of creation. So that's all about the VM. So some basics about the debugging when any jobs are stuck, and if there are any long running jobs and you cannot see the subsequent jobs are not getting executed, then you can in the first thing you can check is the management server log, where you can clearly see that a particular VM job queue has reached concurrency limit 1, and this log you see continuously from the async job manager. And the other one is database tables. You can check sync queue item table for the pending jobs of that VM. And queue size, which will be set to 1, and which will block the subsequent operations for the VM. And for a VM instance, the VM can be in any of the transition states for a long time. So this is how you can check whether the jobs are stuck for a longer duration. And now the future work. There are a couple of enhancements that we can do on this particular area. So one is reprioritization of waiting jobs. So we can, for suppose if we have 10 or more jobs waiting for a long running job to complete, at that time we can, if you want to reprioritize say the third waiting job to first, and move the first waiting job to third, like that. So that enhancement can be done, and there are no API supports to cancel all jobs and listing the pending jobs of the VM. So I have as GSOC is nearly there, so I have created an idea in the GitHub issues. You can check there, and so the API support for the jobs, pending jobs or the waiting jobs, will help easily cancel all the pending jobs of that particular VM if there are any long running jobs, instead of doing any manual operations in the GB. I know I have seen a lot of issues in the VM jobs wherein at the worst case we have to go to the DB and check all the sync queue item records of a particular VM, and delete both the sync queue item records and set the queue size to 0 manually to execute that particular VM job. So it is better if we add a API support for that, so that we can avoid the manual DB intervention. So let me go through quick demo for this. So I have a demo environment here, and I have created a virtual machine. Now you can see my virtual machine. So the virtual machine I created is of ID 3, and you can see the same in the sync queue table there, which is nothing but the synchronizing object ID here, and only one operation has been executed till now, and you can see all the VMs jobs limit has been set to 1 and the queue size is 0. And if you go to sync queue item, currently there are no pending jobs for any of the VMs here. And now I will go and trigger some jobs in that particular VM, and you can see. So now you can see this, but the job with the ID 35 is being executed, and you can see the queue size has been set to 1 here, and the other jobs we are waiting for its execution. Once the job execution is completed, the sync queue manager will purchase that job from the sync queue item entry. So yes, let me trigger some more jobs. So I have created some like VM and volume of operations for that particular VM which I have created, so that you can see some waiting jobs. Yeah, so you can see, so this is the active job, and the sync queue manager sets the management server ID when the job gets executed, and the process number, which you can see the same proc number in sync queue item table that gets executed. Yeah, so you can see this is the current active item, and you can see the same proc number here, and the queue size is 1. So as soon as that get executed, the queue size will be set to 0, and then the next job gets executed. So once the job gets executed, it will be purged from the DB. So in some cases, when a particular job which is getting executed got stuck, or there is some issue with the particular job, then the queue size will be set to 1, and all the jobs which are triggered for that particular VM will be under waiting, and you can simply check that using this query. So you can simply check with queue proc ID set to there will be no MSIDs set, so you can simply check is so these are all waiting to be get executed, and the QID is 3, and that particular QID belongs to if I go to the QID, it belongs to the VM of ID 3, and you can go and quickly check the VM ID. So what is the VM ID? So I think, yeah, so this is how it gets. And now if you create a new instance, you can see a record gets created in the sync queue item, so which is pointing to the new VM that gets created. So let me create a VM. And you can see a new VM, new queue record got created in sync queue item, and which belongs to the VM with ID 5. So this one. And if you further execute any jobs in this particular VM, you can see that in the sync queue item table for that particular queue, right? So I think that's all about the demo. And here are some of the references where you can find some details about VM job queues. And for developers, you can check the code and browse the code to see how the VM job queues got implemented at the database level. So that's all. Any questions? Any questions?
Thank you, Suresh. Thank you, Suresh, for the nice presentation and the nice demo. Let's go to the Q&A currently. I'm starting with the first one. Do you propose any changes to improve and address the technical debt? Can CloudStack auto-heal in a way when it hits concurrency issues, or provide jobs management to the root admin?
If there are concurrency issues, so when the queue size is 0, because the only way to address the concurrency issue is to clear all the pending jobs and set the queue size to 1. Currently, I think the only solution is to restart the management server, which will clean up all the pending jobs, but I think it doesn't set queue size to 0. So we have to explicitly set the queue size to 0 and ensure all the VMs queue size is set to 0, so that the VM operations for the VMs are not blocked after management server restart.
Going to the next one, what is the common problematic case when the queue size is always at 1 and no jobs can be executed and admins have to go and clean the job queue? Probably a good enhancement to provide alerts in such cases. Any suggestions here?
So the common case is whenever there are any long running jobs like taking and backing up of a snapshot, or when the VM is getting migrated, or if whenever there are any network issues during that time, and the CloudStack didn't get any proper answer for the command being sent. So in that cases, the VM gets stuck in one of the transition states, and even the job entry will be there in the sync queue item table. So the only, I think the best way is to address it through API support to check list of the pending jobs and the active job, and clear the pending jobs, and set the queue size and reset the VM queue from the API. So I think that would be the best approach.
The next thing in which people are interested is about the queue size limit column, which we have in CloudStack UI. It seems to be always set to 1, and the question is it configurable?
No, it is not configurable. That is hard. The limit is hardcoded to 1 to ensure the operations on the VM are serialized. Because if you set limit more than 1, and I fire some dependable operations, like I take a VM snapshot and I do stop the VM, and I take one of the volume snapshot. Then if the VM limit is set to 2, I cannot execute the 2 particular operations that may change the state of the VM. So it will have like a conflicting issues while changing the state. So, and the state of that particular VM can be inconsistent. So that is the reason the VM operations are being serialized, so that only one particular operation for that VM is allowed.
And one last question, which is in regards to the ActiveMQ. Where and how does the ActiveMQ pick the drop event notification from? Sometimes we see that the ActiveMQ is not very reliable and misses events. What is the best way to tap events in real time? I think that the people want some real life example or advice from your experience, Suresh.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Where and how does the ActiveMQ pick the drop event notification from?
Drop event notification from?
Yeah, is it pulling sync queue or pulling events?
I didn't get the question actually.
Maybe you can just type the question for you on the chat so that you can check it.
Yes, that's better.
And I will type it also in the event chat. Maybe the person means the RabbitMQ. That's one suggestion which Rohit is helping here. Okay,
RabbitMQ. Yeah, we can push the events to RabbitMQ. So we can configure that. I think there are steps in the CloudStack documentation, and I have tried out that at one point of time. Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, so we have also one more comment on the chat. The drops notification published on RabbitMQ is based on the message bus, which is different thing from asynchronous drop management. I hope we managed to answer to the question.
There are various events sent from CloudStack when doing a VM operation or any other operation, like when taking a volume snapshot, it says snapshotting the volume and taking the backup, like that. So that particular event is sent, and when the snapshot is done, it says that particular volume snapshot is completed. So if you see one event and there is no like the completion event, that means that particular job didn't get successfully executed. So.
Okay, thank you, Suresh. I hope we managed to answer this last question. However, if there is still something unclear, you know where to go. The launch zone is open, and Suresh will be there after his talk, so you can continue the discussion there. Thank you very much for having you here. We will share the video and the slides from Suresh's presentation after the conference. Enjoy your day. We have approximately 30 minutes until the next talk, so maybe it's time to have a short lunch break.